Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Faith Through the Fire podcast. I'm your host, Kayla, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Miss Rebekah Saller. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Before we get into just everything today, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, what you're up to right now. Just give us a little bit about you.
I am currently a senior in college. I have one semester left, and I go to Evangel University in Springfield, Missouri. So a lot different from here, but I'm studying marketing, and then I'm minoring in biblical studies right now.
Do you have any idea where you want to go with that? Is that a Christian school? Yeah. Do you have any idea where you want to go with that? What was your thought process in studying in your minor major?
Yeah, well, marketing, I've always been interested in owning my own business. So I'm thinking about social media, freelance, something like that right now. But not sure where that will lead. But the minor is I've always just been interested in ministry. So maybe putting the two together somehow, or working in a church. I don't know, kind of figuring it out, but that's kind of the idea.
That's amazing. You would honestly do so good in that. All right, tell us your story. Tell us how you found Jesus.
So I've grown up in a Christian family my whole life. Raised in church a lot. My mom was in ministry for 30 years doing kids ministry and just generational Christians with pastors in my family, different things. So I've really grown up in a strong Christian family. I would say I've never really had a time where I truly walked away from the Lord. But there have been, every season's different, highs and lows. In about middle school, I started experiencing a lot of anxiety out of nowhere. I look back now and I think there might have been some traumatic things that happened around me that I didn't realize maybe affected that. But honestly, that was the first time where it was a hard thing I walked through. And I remember that lasted a few years, and then it was I had felt I defeated that going into high school, and I was okay, Lord, we conquered this, and it was great. I had great years in high school. I went to a Christian school, and it wasn't until my junior year of high school where I got COVID for the first time, actually, and I was sick for 9 months after, and they had no idea, the doctors, what was wrong with me, and I was in and out of specialist and ER and all the things, and they were we don't know what's wrong with you. And so it was a time where I felt that anxiety had kind of come back. And I mean, it's kind of scary when doctors are yeah, we don't know what's wrong with you. And I'm oh, nice. So that was a really hard time in my life. And I feel that was the first time where I truly felt my faith had to become my own. Because I feel in middle school, I was anxious and stuff, but I wasn't really going to the Lord about it. I was just young, and I didn't really know what was happening. So this was the first time where I was okay, Lord, what's going on? And so I was sick for that whole year, and that was rough. And then I was able to kind of get better, and I went off to college in Missouri. And college in itself has been a whole thing. I mean, you grow so much in college and all that. But honestly, this last year has been a huge part of my testimony, I would say. And I got really sick my junior year of high school as well, so a year from the fall. And I just got some virus, me and my friends, and never bounced back. And every day I woke up with new symptoms, and again, in and out of doctors, and just Lord, what's happening? It was just such a hard time. I was also my anxiety was at its worst, and I've never felt so low in my life before like that. And it just felt there was no way out, and it was so hopeless. But I would say from looking back at this year, it's been one of the biggest times of growth with the Lord. And it's just been so cool to see how he brings you from one place to now. And so, I don't know, I feel it's also recent. I'm still continually learning so much from the Lord, but I feel anxiety has been something I've had to learn how to surrender to the Lord throughout my life, and just seeing his faithfulness in that.
Oh, beautiful. In high school, when you first got COVID and were sick, talk a little bit about what it looked like for you to make your faith your own. Does that make sense?
Well, it's funny because whenever people would say that growing up, I was what do you mean? My faith is my own. I never understood what they meant by that until I got to that place, and I was no, I'm a Christian. But I think it started then. It probably was more happened in college, in the sense of when you're on your own, you're independent, you're really not relying on your parents. But I think during that time in high school, I was seeking the Lord more because I was like, Lord, like, what is happening? But there was still such a reliance on my parents during that time, or even doctors. I think I put so much trust in like they know what's happening more than the Lord. And so that would like be probably where it started. But then honestly, college years, like even before I got sick again in college, I think those were foundational years of being like, I'm on my own now. I'm living far away. Like different things like that, that were just struggles for me in general, like living 23 hours away. Like that was so new. And I think I don't know exactly how to like put it of how it looked, but I think it's just when you realize like you're not relying on your parents or those people at home anymore. It was more like, this is me and the Lord. Like I need to go to him over other people.
When you got sick the second time, was it like disappointing? Were you like upset at the Lord? Did you feel frustrated? How did you process all of that with the Lord?
Yeah, no, it was really discouraging. I think more than anything, it was like, what is happening? And I think I was just filled with so much anxiety. And it was more like, okay, what is happening? I'm scared of how my body's feeling, but also like, Lord, why do I feel so anxious? Because I felt like I was giving it to him, but there was also a physical anxiety that was going on too within my body and everything. And so I think it was just difficult because I was like, Lord, I feel like I'm giving it to you, but nothing's changing. And so if anything, it was, yeah, a little frustrating with the Lord. Like, God, I'm doing my part. Like, where are you in this?
When did you find out answers?
Yeah, so I was sick the fall semester, and then I came home last Christmas break a year from now, and I really thought it was just like burnout, like from school, because I had a really stressful semester, and then it was literally like a week before I was supposed to like get back on the plane and go back to school, and I was like, I can't do this. So like I had no plans of not returning. Like I thought I was going back. And so that was a super hard decision. And it was a few months, I think, after that, like January or February, where we went to a doctor and did a bunch of tests and found out. And then I've been on treatment. I'm still on treatment since March. So, wow. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't go back to college last semester. No. Okay, talk about that.
Yeah, so I decided to stay home. It was one of those decisions where you kind of don't feel the Lord directing either way. I was like at a height of anxiety. I didn't know what was happening. And, I had kind of like sat down with my parents, made a pros and cons list of like each, because they really wanted me to go back, because at the time we were like, we don't know what's wrong. And they were like, make it to summer, summer will be a good break and all the things. And I like saw their point of view, but inside there was something in my heart that was like, physically and mentally, I don't think I can go through what I went through last semester, because it was really rough. And it was just a lot of praying, and like, I mean, praying within 3 days, because I was like, my flight is booked already. And it was one of those decisions where I was like, Lord, I don't feel your direction, but I just need to make a decision. And I look back and I'm so thankful that I did go with that decision, because I don't know where I would have been. And yeah, it was so good. So I ended up taking that semester off of school and then having the summer. So I was home for 9 months of this year, which is crazy, because I went back to school this fall, and I'm like, wow, so much has happened this year. Like it feels like I'm like, what even happened? But yeah, so I ended up taking a semester off, and which was so good to find answers and just find healing in that too.
Oh, that's good. There's a couple different thoughts in my head, but as a college student, your friends all went back to school like that semester. Was it hard for you for them to go and like you to stay? Was there anything in that you wrestled? Like, did you feel FOMO and stuff?
Yes. Yeah, it was really hard. Initially it was really hard telling them, because I mean, for some of my close friends too, like we depend on each other at school, right? And I remember telling one of my friends, I hadn't like made a firm answer yet, but it was like 2 days until we were supposed to be back to school. And I was like, I know I need to tell her, because I can't just tell her the day before. And even though it was still close, I remember telling her, and her response, totally fine, because we've talked about it now. And it was like a little like hard for me to hear at the time, because it was the way she was grieving too, where she was kind of like, why did you just tell me this now? And I was like, truthfully, like I did not know. And it was hard telling friends, and they were sad and I was sad, and we didn't know like at the time what was going on. And yeah, it was really hard. It was hard to be apart. And even going back, I had to go back because all my stuff was still there. And so I went back like a month later, and that was just hard because it's like you're seeing them in the semester without you there. And that was just I remember that being a really emotional weekend, just going out there, like moving out, and, you're hugging them goodbye. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Like, just, it felt like life just took like a 180, like truly. And it was hard. Yeah. They would do like, I remember them doing like a photo shoot or some different like fun things, that girls do in college. And I remember being like, oh, my people, like, and so, yeah, it definitely was hard. But I also knew in that time that I was like right where the Lord had me, and very thankful that even coming back to school, it was like so good to be back together, and like nothing changed. So I'm really thankful for that.
Something else you had talked about was like not feeling the Lord's direction. I think that's so important that you said that, because looking back now, you can see like he was directing you. Does that give you confidence now, knowing that like you obviously had this like deep down, I know that this is what I need to do, even though it didn't like feel like it was the Lord necessarily? Has it given you confidence now that to like follow that more, or has that like affected you at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've never experienced like that big of a decision before without direction. And I think it has taught me that sometimes it is really that like, deep within your heart, like still small voice from the Lord. Cause I'm someone that I'm like, I want confirmation. I want to like be really clear that this is the right thing. And it just wasn't that. And I think so many times in our life, we are looking for the Lord to like be so clear. And in that time, it was like I had a weak time frame, and it's hard to put a time frame on the Lord because he doesn't always work in our time frame. And I think, yeah, it's taught me that sometimes the Lord just speaks softly to your heart, or you might not even feel like he's speaking, but sometimes you have to take that step of obedience. And I could have taken that step. I remember having a conversation with my mom actually before I made the decision, and she was like, I've had times in my life where sometimes you make a decision, you look back and you're like, that was not the right decision, but he directs you. Or you look back and you're like, that's exactly what he wanted. And so, yeah, I think looking back, it was exactly what the Lord had for me. But I think it is important to listen to that like small voice within your heart, even if it's not like him shouting.
And there's that saying that's like, God can't steer a parked car or whatever. And I think it is so true. Like if you don't do anything, and if you're just waiting for confirmation after confirmation, first of all, there is maybe a little bit of like a faith issue, but also like if you don't move in any direction, then God can't also redirect you or show you what he wants or whatever. So that's really good. Okay, obviously you go to a Christian school, so this might look a little different. Wait, first of all, what are the rules there? Like, is there drinking allowed? Is there partying? Is there curfews? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's a Christian school. Yeah, no drinking like on campus or anything. Actually, we signed something that you're not even supposed to drink at all when you're there. And then that's also just something that's affiliated like with the denomination of the school, I think. Assemblies of God. Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's, no drinking or partying. Other rules. Yeah, there's like curfew like freshman year. It's like, I don't know, 1 a.m. or something, but it's only like freshman year. So, but I would say like definitely like no partying, all that stuff.
That being said, what has it looked like for you to keep God at the center in college? Like, are there temptations that you've faced? What does that look like especially at like a Christian school where there are more rules and stuff?
Yeah, I'm not generally like a fan of rules, but I also am not someone that's drawn to like partying and stuff. So personally for me, that hasn't been like a temptation for me. I know for other people, it has been, but I would say keeping God at the center, it's nice because at a Christian school, like we have chapel and we have all the different things. So there are things that are set in place to help you in your relationship with the Lord. But I think for me, it's just been like having that my own time with the Lord, and being just like with people who stir you in your faith and help you like hunger for the Lord more. And so obviously at a Christian school too, there's people who aren't walking with the Lord and not living right. And so I think it's important to find the people who are truly following the Lord. And that's made it like the difference for me.
The person who is like considering going to a Christian school or not, obviously, have you only gone to a Christian college? What would your like encouragement be to go to a Christian college? Does it feel not culty, but does it feel like restrictive at all, or has it been like a good experience for you?
I think some people would say that it's been restrictive. I personally think not as much because I went to a Christian high school. I would say that felt very restrictive to me. We had like uniforms, it had to be to your knee, like all the things. And to me, I was like, okay, you know? So that felt more like it, where I feel like in college there's a lot more freedom. I haven't really experienced any issues with any of the rules where I've been like upset about it. But also maybe that's just my personality. I think it's pretty, they have rules set in place, but they're not like super strict. They're kind of lenient sometimes. So along those lines, I think for me it's been a good experience. Of course, I can only speak for myself.
What is something that you're believing the Lord for that hasn't happened in the natural yet?
I feel like there's so much at this season of life with, I don't know, graduating soon. I'm like, Lord, where are you directing me? But I think the first thing that comes to my mind is healing, like physical healing. I'm still waiting on that. I'm not where I was last year. I'm in a lot better of a place, but I'm still walking through, ups and downs with just sickness. And so I think the cry of my heart lately has been like, Lord, like, I don't want to be on treatment anymore. Like, would you just heal me? And so I would say I'm just believing for that. I know that he's a God who heals. And I would just say I'm waiting on that and praying for that.
Okay, I'm just curious, what does like Lyme's disease treatment look like?
So it's different for everyone, I guess. I'm going to like a more natural doctor. So I'm on antibiotics and supplements. So they treat it both ways. Lyme is like a bacteria. So it's treated with antibiotics. So I've been doing that for 10 months and then like supplements and different things like that. But then again, with that comes like gut challenges and all the things with being on antibiotics for so long. But it is such a crazy thing how a little tick can affect so much.
Canada, we don't have ticks, or they're not a big thing. So when I moved down here, very quickly became my biggest fear. Even still, I walk in the woods, I'm rebuking every tick. They are like, you're not coming on me. It's crazy to me how ticks, they disgust me. Okay, so as you've been like praying for healing and just like walking the whole treatment, okay, first of all, has it like, obviously you said there's gut problems. Do you get like sick a lot too? Is that part of it? Or is it like super up and down, or has it been pretty like steady on the treatment? That's again me. I'm just so curious.
Yeah. At first, yes, I was very like sick. Like my immunity was so low. I caught like everything and felt sick a lot. As I started treatment, it was kind of similar. Now I'm at a more stable place where there's still days that are up and down, but less. At first, it was like every day was so different. Like I didn't even know if I was going to feel good making plans the next day, like that type of thing. Now this summer, I like turned around a lot and was able to like feel like well enough to go back to school. And so, I've stayed stable. But now it's at the point where it's like, they're trying to switch stuff around because they're like, okay, you're not getting better, you're staying the same. So it's really just like trying different things. And I think that's why treatment takes so long, is it's like what works best for you and your body and things like that.
While you've been praying and wrestling for the healing and just like asking Lord for the healing, what have you learned about the character of the Lord, and how has it brought you closer to him?
I think above anything else, I've just seen his faithfulness. I think it's cool when you look back at where you were and you can see the Lord's hand in it, even if you don't in the moment. And I just think he's a faithful God to answer when we call out to him. And I think that's what I've seen the most, is like when you seek the Lord and you call on him, like he says, like, seek and you will find me. And I've found that. It's just been cool. Like every time he's different, right? Like he speaks in different ways. I remember, I think it was like January or February. It was a few weeks after I like found out that it was Lyme's disease that I had. And I went to a worship night at our church, and they were actually having prayer for healing that night. And they had some like prayer people at the front, and I was going to go up, but they had been kind of like saying some specific things they felt like there was healing for. And I was like, okay, well, if Lyme gets said, I'll go up. But I was like, I'm not going to go up because they were saying some different things. And I remember there was this girl at the front, and like the Lord didn't say anything to me, but I just felt something in my heart. I was like, like, I don't know, just the Lord just kind of pointed her out to me, but I didn't do anything about it. And they were like, okay, like come up for prayer. And she actually walked to me, and I was still sitting like where I was sitting, and she came up to me and she was like, hey, like the Lord just like highlighted you to me, like, do you have anything you need prayer for? And I was like, yeah, actually I like just found out I have Lyme's disease. And she was like, I was like crying and she was crying and she was like, I have Lyme's disease, like that's my story. And I like was just so like seen by the Lord. And it's just cool, like time and time again there's been like things like that throughout this year where it's like, Lord, I need you right now. And it's like he speaks through someone, or he shows up, or he just through doctors, different things. It's just so cool how like when you seek the Lord. And so I think above all else, I've just seen he's a faithful God. And even like taking that into this next season of unknown with school and stuff, I'm like, I've seen his faithfulness this year, and I know that he's going to continue that.
I think it's cool how you can talk about how faithful he is even when you haven't seen him do the healing yet. Like how you can recognize that even when he hasn't done exactly what you have been asking him for and believing that he will do eventually, like you can still call him faithful. Because I think that's like can be such a hard thing. It's like, oh, he's not faithful until I see him do it. And so it can almost be this question of like, is he going to be faithful to me? But instead it's like, you get to sit here and be like, no, he's been so faithful to me, and I can trace his faithfulness even though he hasn't completed what he started. Um, Talk a little bit about just the impact this past year has had on you and like your faith.
I think this year has just brought like more of a depth with the Lord than ever before. I think for me, when I like walk through hard seasons, it really does like draw me to the Lord more. And I think that I've just seen his hand in different things throughout this season of just like, I don't know, different surprises or different things that he brought. Like he ended up giving me like so much community through the summer and different things where I was like lonely, and then like the Lord brought so much. And so I think there's just been more of a depth with the Lord, and even more of a hunger, like just being surrounded by people who have like stirred my faith. And I think just, yeah, trials like bring you to your knees more. And so for me, this year has been crucial in my walk with the Lord, and I've just seen a different side of the Lord than I have before, like more as like a father, and just grown to know his character more. And even with like anxiety throughout my life, like I talked about in my testimony, I think for the longest time I was like, how do I surrender to the Lord? Because everyone, like you hear in different services where people are like, just surrender to the Lord, all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm trying. I don't know how. And I'm such a like practical person where I'm like, give me like the steps. Like, what do I do to get rid of this? And so with the Lord, it's not like that. And so for the longest time, I never like knew how to fully surrender. I thought I was. And I think this year has like, I've fully been able to say that I feel like I have surrendered that to the Lord because I know his character now. Because you can't trust someone to have control of your life if you don't know them. And I think I didn't fully know the Lord from a personal relationship until I really had to depend only on him this year. And so now I feel like I can walk knowing like, Lord, I give my life to you because I know who you are, and I know that you like will take care of it.
What encouragement would you have for someone who is walking their healing journey and like is believing the Lord for healing, whether it's like physical or anxiety, like something like that? What would you encourage them with while they're like walking in that and waiting in that?
I would say first, give yourself grace. Yeah. I think I can tend to be so hard on myself, and even through like a healing journey like this, still, even now, there's days where I'll get discouraged and I'm like, why can't I do this? Or like, why am I feeling this way again? Because different things will come up, and I'm like, I thought we were past that months ago. And like people in my life and my mom and different people always have to remind me, like, you're still healing. Like, give yourself grace. You're being hard on yourself. So I would say, like, yeah, just give yourself grace. Don't be so hard on yourself. And also, there were times where I felt so stuck where I was, whether that was the anxiety, the sickness, like times of loneliness. Like, know that this season will pass. You are not in it forever. The Lord's faithful, and that just, yeah, truly, like, it is a season. And I think I've also learned that, like, seasons like this do draw us to the Lord, but ultimately, more than like healing my body, I've learned that he just like wants to heal our hearts more than anything. And I found that is like, he's healed my heart this year in deeper ways that I didn't even know I needed. And he's after our hearts more than anything else. And so I think, like, turn to him, give him your heart in this, and just give yourself grace as you walk through it.
Good. And that's so beautiful. And I personally, like, my sister has walked her own like healing journey and just health stuff, and hasn't seen it in like completion yet. And it's really hard. It's something that's really like, your health is something that doesn't only affect like your physical body, but it affects like every part of you, and it's really really hard. And so I think that's really encouraging. Talk a little bit about, in all of this, how you've like grown in learning to hear the voice of the Lord, and like learning what his voice sounds like.
Yeah, that has been like a question of mystery for so long for me. I like really thought it was like mysterious for so long. I was like, when people are talking about like hearing the Lord, I'm like, how do you hear the Lord? Like, I didn't know. I think I'm still learning, but I would say this year, I think it's really just looked like being in the Word. And I remember someone telling me that. They're like, if you don't feel like the Lord's speaking to you, go to the Bible because he's already spoken there. And that was huge for me because I was like, oh my word, he literally has spoken. Like, so I think just like deeper diving into the word and seeing him speak through that, and also just through people. I feel like the Lord speaks a lot of times to me through other people, or even like, this sounds crazy, but like social media. There's been so many times in college or different times where I'm walking through our things and like someone will post something and I'm like, that's exactly what I needed to see. Or podcasts. Like, I'm a huge podcast listener, and sometimes it's just things like that that you just need to hear. And so I think for me, like, hearing the voice of God is through that, and just like looking for him in everything. Like, when you're living a life with Jesus, he's in everything. And so I think inviting him into every moment of your day, you begin to like look for him in everything because he's on your mind all the time, and you can hear him and see him throughout your whole day.
I love that, like looking for him and everything, because it's so true. I think so often it's easy to like go the whole day and be like, well, I didn't see Jesus, and it's like, well, were you looking? Because like, he's a gentleman, he's not going to force anything. um and it's so true. And even what you're saying about social media, I think social media can get a bad rap sometimes, and yeah, there's a lot of like garbage on there. But also, it is this beautiful platform where I know a lot of people who've come to the Lord through it. I know a lot of people who have been very positively impacted by it. And so also, this is encouragement for anyone who's like wanting to, or thinking about like posting something that's encouraging or whatever that may look like. Just do it. You have no idea. Like, if it impacts one person, it's worth it. And you never know how the Lord's going to use it. And so there's that. For someone who is like walking out like a physical healing, and a healing like you are, how can the people around them support them best? What do you need, or did you need in that time, that was like most critical, but even now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think during that time when I was like really struggling, I think it's easy to already kind of feel crazy when you're super anxious, you don't know what's happening. I think the best thing to do is just listen and just love on someone. Like, maybe, I don't know if this is for everyone, but for me, like, you can ask questions and like help me like talk things out. But I would say just, yeah, be a listening ear and encouragement, or just saying that you're praying for someone, like that goes a long way. Or just checking up. I think following up is a huge thing, because it makes you feel cared for when someone does that. So I would say definitely that stuff. Or even, it's just meant so much, even going back to school, like when people will still ask me like, hey, how are you doing? Because I'm like, yes, I'm so different than I was. But I think something like this, when it's more like chronic, people kind of can forget, because you can put on a good face and you seem like you're fine and functioning well. But I think sometimes people forget. And so I think it means a lot when people are like, hey, like, are you doing better? Or, are just there to listen, and even listen like to your story and stuff. So I think, yeah, just listening and encouraging and praying is huge.
Okay, you saying chronic made me think of something. Has that been hard to like be diagnosed with a chronic illness? Has that been hard as to not bring it on as your identity, or has that like caused any insecurity or anything like that?
I would say I've never been someone that like wants to label myself with things. Even when I've said like in my testimony as like walking with the Lord with anxiety, I've never been someone to be like, I have anxiety, just because I think what we speak over ourselves is huge. And so I've never wanted to label myself as that. I will say, like, yeah, I've had more anxious tendencies throughout my life, and that's been something I've had to surrender. But I would say with the Lyme, I never felt like it's defined me. I think it's a big part of my story. And I think that it will forever be a big part of my story, and even walk with the Lord. But I think that I haven't like taken it on as like necessarily a label, because I know that the Lord can take it away too, just as quick as it came on. So
that's encouraging for other people who do tend to struggle with labeling themselves as something like that. That truthfully, like, yeah, it can be taken away in a second. And then also, if you label yourself with it, what are you when it's gone too? In what area of this do you think has been the most wrestle? Like, what area of your healing has the enemy tried to attack the most?
that's a good question. I think, honestly, I feel like identity a lot. Like, not with like the labeling as much, but I think throughout this journey, a lot of things are taken away. Like, I love running. I haven't been able to run in like, I don't know, a year and a half, just because it's like I couldn't do that for a while, and I still haven't. And I think there's some things that you have to take a pause on, and just like realizing like you aren't those things, or those things that you love to do. Like things can be taken away in a moment, and so I think I've just learned that my identity has to be in the Lord. And it's crazy too how when you walk through something, like it might not even be health related, but the Lord just reveals different things to you about your life, or just growing you in different ways. And I definitely saw that happen a lot.
Okay, so it seems to me like you have your whole life have had this like really like mature mindset, even about like not labeling yourself with anxiety in high school. I feel like at least the high school I went to, anyone who had that, like it was exactly who they were, and they like clung to that. Who like played into that? Was it your parents that kind of raised you that way? Was it just something you've like naturally always had? What kind of like played into that maturity of like not labeling yourself and stuff?
Yeah, I would say my parents. I am so thankful for them. They just raised like me and my siblings, just, I don't know, like to love the Lord, and just a very like level-headed mindset. And so I would say I learned a lot of that from them, and just watching and observing how they live. I've also had great friends throughout like high school, and in church and different things, and even mentors that have been crucial in like the different seasons of life. And so I would say I've definitely been shaped by all of those people around me. I'm really thankful to have like such great Christian friends and just community around me throughout my whole life. And I know that that's not the case for everyone. And so I have really been grateful over the years of just being like, wow, like the Lord put amazing people in my life for every season.
Okay, well, do you have any last words of like encouragement or thing you want to say before we wrap up?
I would just say, like, if you're walking through a difficult season, whether that is physical or mental or just anything going on, I think when you choose to change your perspective on it, everything changes. And it took me a while to realize that, because, of course, it's so hard when you're walking through a difficult season. But I think there was a moment where I looked to the Lord in a deeper way, and I was able to just like realize that he like cares so much more about our heart. And when you like change your perspective of like, oh, why am I struggling, or why am I walking through this, to like, this is an opportunity for me to know the Father deeper.
Yeah.
And I think when I shifted my perspective, it almost was like a joy to look at suffering, which is like crazy to say, but even now, like when I like am asking the Lord for healing, it's like this battle in my heart where I'm like, yes, I want to be healed, Lord, like please. But then also this battle of like, but if this continues to draw me to my knees and draw me to you, then like keep me how I am. And obviously every day is different, because some days I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But truly, like, it has brought me to a deeper place with the Lord, and I think that I wouldn't like trade that, because I've just seen so much growth, and this year has just truly been so hard but so beautiful. And
so good, and that's so beautiful. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so fun. You are such a beautiful person inside and out, and just so wise, and you can tell like your closeness with the Lord radiates out like within and throughout you, so it's beautiful. And thank you for your vulnerability. I know that's not like necessarily the easiest thing to talk about, so thank you, and we will be praying for your healing.
thank you.
But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We love you, we're praying for you, and we'll see you next week. Bye!